business of humanity, what we are trying to suggest is something very different than my colleagues in the corporate social responsibility field are suggesting, where they take the point of view that these are the right things to do because they are a moral imperative or an ethical requirement. The project that we are focusing on is trying to demonstrate to companies that this is not just the ethical thing to do, it's the economically right thing to do. I think it has opened people's eyes to the need for new ways of doing business. We have identified a set of companies all over the world actually. There are a couple in the US, there are 3 or 4 in India that we are working with. We are working with 2 in the Czech Republic. We have 4 in Brazil. We are negotiating with a company in China to write a case study there, and we have aspirations to write a case study or 2 in Russia. The project will be successful, I think, if we not only demonstrate that, but show companies how to make these decisions. Profits are not a very helpful measure for decision making in managerial contexts, especially accounting profits, because accounting profits do not map well onto economic profits. Economic profits, true profits, are really based on a notion of opportunity costs, and accounting profits are based on historical costs. Accounting profits are based on a whole series of rules and regulations and expectations that do not necessarily allow the reported information to map perfectly onto economic ideas. I mean, if you take the recent discussion about mark-to-market and you change the rule and the profits change. So what is the true profit here? It's very difficult to determine. And if you take measures like ROI, it's also open to manipulation in a variety of ways. And if you have, I'm sorry, I'm going to get technical for a second, but if you have a full cost accounting system, you can manipulate your profits by increasing the volume of production, even if you do not sell anything. So there are lots of problems with profits. Let's set that aside. The second driver for this project is the recognition that qualitative considerations, if I could phrase it that way, have a direct impact on profit. I mean, of late, people have realized that paying attention to environmental sustainability has a positive impact on the bottom line. If you look at quality, 25 years ago, the American auto companies didn't pay attention to quality, thinking it cost them money. But they realized along the way quality is, quote, free, and now they realize that quality has an immediate and continuing impact, positive impact on the bottom line. Similarly, issues such as safety, which for companies like Alcoa as number 1, has not only a long-term impact on the sustainability of the organization, it also has an immediate impact on the bottom line. I can go on talking about other factors such as social sustainability and so on. Diversity, again, as people are beginning to realize, that's an extraordinarily positive thing. So there's a whole series of qualitative factors that are not only, in a sense, a good way of doing business, but have a positive impact on the bottom line. We have a case study of Ford in northeastern Brazil, which is a very, very underdeveloped part of Brazil. And one of the finest automobile plants in the world has been created by Ford there, using these considerations of quality, sustainability, and gender equality. Their workforce is 50% women. And it was drawn from a population that has practically no industrial history or experience, and they were trained by Ford. If you looked at these decisions from purely a short-term, quote-unquote, accounting profit perspective, these decisions would not have been made. You would not have this incredible plant at Camaçari in Brazil, which I think is a consequence of Ford taking these other humanity-based notions into consideration when making decisions. The third notion that is driving this project is the understanding that I think was captured best by my good friend C.K. Prahalad, who wrote this book called The Fortune at the Bottom of the Pyramid. And it's really a notion that when you deal with new customer segments that you might traditionally have seen as incapable of buying your products because they're not that well off, actually, when you try to address these low-income segments, 2 things happen. One is technological innovation results. The second thing is you actually end up making money. Because when you work to a price point, when you try to understand the needs of these customers, there's not too much competition from other organizations, and there are companies that are literally making billions by serving the needs of low-income populations in countries where these low-income segments are extraordinarily large. We're talking about 700 million people in India who traditionally have been ignored by American companies. So when you start working with them, technological innovation results, and you develop products and services that actually feed back and improve your ability to compete at the upper ends of the of the customer segments that have a lot more money. So if you look at trying to, in a sense, do good, quote unquote, by working with lower income segments, it has an immediate impact on your bottom line, and it also improves your ability to compete in the other customer segments, and we have case studies that demonstrate that. So let's put all these together. Profits are not really an excellent measure of, excellent basis for making managerial decisions. Qualitative factors, which actually work out to be fall into the characteristic of humaneness. If you look at the dictionary definition, where you look at quality, safety, diversity, environmental and social sustainability, and so on. And the third thing is when you start looking at humankind, so to speak, when you look at the whole globe and you look at multiple customer segments, you put all that together, you put humaneness and humankind together, you get the word humanity. You know, to some extent, this is semi-uncharted territory. We are saying this makes good economic sense, and it's going to be difficult for us to demonstrate that we are not just bleeding heart do-gooders, but people with a very strong awareness of the importance of the bottom line and the importance of shareholder value and considerations of that nature. And what I think the major obstacle would be is to, in a sense, distinguish this project from the very credible and very important efforts of our colleagues in the corporate social responsibility field, where the driving force, as I said, is more of an ethical nature, whereas our driving force is primarily, if not solely, economic. We are, in a sense, bringing together the best of the university, and when you bring together multiple disciplines, you also have a surge of innovation and new ideas. The cross-fertilization is extraordinarily effective. For example, the Graduate School of Public and International Affairs, and Professor Kevin Kearns, is very much a part of this project from GISPIA. In the public policy arena, approaches to decision-making very similar to what we are talking about have been employed for a long time. Beyond that, there's a notion of social enterprise, which again falls very much within the purview of GISPIA, where you talk about entities that are not-for-profit entities and NGOs that engage in activities that generate profits. So there are lessons to be learned from there. We have the School of Engineering involved. For example, the co-principal investigator is Professor Vedanta, Chair of Industrial Engineering. And what he has is the methodologies and the techniques for innovation, product development, which again our marketing faculty do have an emphasis on. Dr. Klinsing and the University Research Council are supporting this, and the Dean at our school is supporting this. So, and we have, again, our faculty especially in our strategy, environment, and organizations group being extraordinarily supportive of this. What we are planning to do is to have senior executives, usually the CEO from the companies that we have case studies on, come here and present their perspectives on the case studies, which will be made available to the conference participants to get a better understanding, to, in a sense, consolidate the learning that's developed, plan out our next steps, because we see this as a continuing project, and hopefully lead to two books. One is built on just the case studies, which will provide, I think, enormously valuable material for the classroom, but also, in a sense, start us towards working on a more classical theoretical book, which would explore the new paradigm that we are suggesting. We need to think about economic decision-making in a slightly different fashion, where what economists have treated as externalities are now part of the decision-making process. And secondly, in my particular area and strategy, we need to really modify the strategy paradigm to recognize the kinds of processes that the Business of Humanity project is already revealing, where it becomes apparent that social processes are extraordinarily important, and not only the what of strategy, but the how of strategy, the process of strategy, and who gets involved and how has got to be built into the paradigm. The companies that you have case studies on, they are absolutely delighted, indicated a ready willingness to participate in the conference and on an ongoing basis because they are learning. I'm so very excited about the project, and we've already seen valuable results. Just the case studies alone that are emerging from the project have justified the project in terms of providing very unusual and very interesting and intriguing material for classroom discussion. And I think with the support we've been getting from industry, from the university, from all our colleagues, this project is the right one in the right place at the right time.